I talked to my nephew yesterday, then I'll totally get into the interview. But I talked to him yesterday because I talked to him and my mom a lot. And my mom is supportive but doesn't understand anime. But my nephew loves anime. So I was like, guess who I get to talk to tomorrow? And he started freaking out on the phone. And my mom was like, who?
What's his name?
His name is Javon.
Okay, well, Javon, since I'm sure you're going to get a copy of this recording.
Oh, no.
Hello, Javon. It's nice to see you. I don't want you to be jealous.
No, he's supposed to be jealous. It's okay.
Well, then don't show him that.
No, I will. Actually, can you do Bomo for him and say hi, Javon?
Oh, of course. Javon, yeah?
Javon, yeah.
Javon, you better be a good boy and do your dishes and the laundry and all the things you're supposed to do, or I'm going to send Vegeta over to your house and you're not going to like it.
Just oh my gosh. I'm starting the video here. Just to get the cool aunt award of the century.
There you
go.
Goodness.
Thank you
I
so
try to
much.
help when I can.
Hello there, fellow anime enthusiasts. I'm Briana Lawrence, your fandom editor over at the Mary Sue, and I'm collaborating with my pals over at Funimation for this Women's History Month series of interviews. First up, Monica Rial. I feel like Monica Rial needs no introduction, but I'm gonna try. Unbeknownst to me, the first time I heard Monica was in the dub for XL Saga, a comedic anime series where she plays a sidekick who dies, comes back, dies, and comes back again. You kinda had to be there. Monica's been a part of the anime industry for decades, lending her voice to some personal faves like Boma Briefs from Dragon Ball Z and Suyu Asui from My Hero Academia. She's the voice actress I broke my cool vibe over when I was told I'd be able to do this interview series. Spoiler alert, I broke that cool girl vibe with all the voice actresses, and actually, I don't think that vibe ever existed with me to begin with. Please enjoy this interview series, and let's kick things off with Monica. I got off my 28 Days of Black cosplay high, so now I get to go right into Women's History Month, and I'm like, yes.
I'm so glad that you mentioned 28 Days of Black cosplay, because Shaka Cumberbatch is a friend of mine, and she's
I love her. She is one of my best friends. She's like my little sister, and
I adore her so much, and I'm so jealous of her roller skating videos right now. Can I just tell you?
Because she just posted one today, you know?
I'm gonna have to check it out. I'm like, man, I don't look that cool when I do that at all.
They let me do features every single day in February, and February was ending, and I messaged Funimation about doing something, and they brought up Women's History Month, and I'm like, let's go, let's do it.
Yes, I'm so happy.
So, first question, how did you discover anime?
I discovered anime. Well, I mean, I think like everybody, I started watching anime as a kid. I just didn't realize it was anime. Yes. You know, like we had like your Speed Racers and your oh gosh, there's so much Thundercats and what is it? The one that I love, Voltron. I didn't realize.
Yes.
My first crush was on the Keith, the guy that drove the Red Lion. I think.
Yes, Keith.
That was my first. But I didn't know it was anime. I was just like, oh, okay, yeah, that's a thing I watch. It's Voltron. It's cool. It wasn't until my family is from Spain. And so I went with my brother to Spain, and he doesn't speak Spanish very well, but he would get up in the morning really early to watch this show called Las Bolas de Dragón, which was Dragon Ball. Wow. So before it ever even came to the States, I was sitting there at like 7 o'clock in the morning on my abuelita sofa, translating Dragon Ball for my brother Miguel as we went along. And I joke that I did every voice in Dragon Ball before I was ever a part of Dragon Ball, because I kind of did. But it was really, really cool because, you know, he got so invested in it. He started picking up manga and toys and anything he could get his hands on. And we came back to the States, and it really hadn't hit here yet. So he started getting into other stuff, like he was big into Akira, which I was like, oh, I can get behind this. This is cool. Yeah, I love it. And then Ghost in the Shell, and he started branching out. So I was really intrigued by it. It was kind of our thing that we did together. And then a few years later, Dragon Ball came stateside. He's like, it's that show that I love. So we had that to bond. And So as you can imagine, when I actually joined the cast, it was a big deal for me and my little brother. We had a
Oh,
little bonding moment.
that's the sweetest story. And and you're right. I feel like a lot of us, it was just on TV. And we were like,
Yeah.
okay, sure.
I mean, I loved Sailor Moon, right? But I didn't
Yeah.
know it was from Japan. I just knew that I really
Yeah.
dug Sailor Mercury because she had blue hair and I liked her outfit. And I was like, yeah, I don't know what this is about.
Yeah.
One of the most surreal things for me though was Robotech. Like, I'm a little young for Robotech, but I remember the dolls and I was fascinated with the dolls. And so I bought a Lisa Hayes doll from Robotech when I was really, really little.
Oh.
And it turned out many, many, many years later, I ended up dubbing Macross, which is one of the main shows that Robotech was made out of. And I played Misa Hayase, who was Lisa Hayes. It was the weirdest, like, full circle moment of like, oh my God, I had the doll of the, this is so weird.
Oh my goodness. Wow. I feel like that's similar to my story. Because it
really?
No one actually had a name for it. Like, it wasn't like anime and people were they were like, it's different, but we can't explain how. It just is. They're like, just trust us, it's different. So that I was like, yeah, that was me. And like, finally, I don't even remember what year it finally was, like maybe the Toonami years. They were like, okay, guys, this is something different and cool and awesome. But before that, like, my mom was watching Speed Racer before I was even like born. And she's like, that looks like that thing I used to watch.
That's what I tell parents when they come to like conventions and they're concerned about their kids watching anime. They're like, my kids spend all of this time watching anime. And I'm like, I'm gonna throw you for a loop here. Did you watch Speed Racer growing up? They're like, yeah. Did you watch Thundercats? Yeah. Did you watch Voltron? Yeah.
You were watching anime.
Yeah. They just don't know. And it's funny because, yeah, we've all seen it. We just may not know that's what we were watching.
Exactly. So I'm going to skip the second question because I think you already covered it, kind of like what draws you to anime, which that story with your brother and oh my gosh, that's what inspired you to become a voice actress? How did you get started?
Well, you know, it's funny because I've been acting since I was 12. But nobody ever told me about voice acting. Like, when I was going through my schooling, like, we learned about stage and we learned about film and all of these other things, but nobody ever had the thought to go, hey, there's this other thing called voice acting that you
That's
can
interesting.
do.
Because we watch plenty of things that require voice acting. So
I don't know why I never considered it a job. I never thought that that was something I could do for some reason. But it wasn't until college. I was doing a Shakespearean play with Jason Douglas, who is a fantastic voice actor, Beerus, if you will.
Yeah,
so Beerus and I were on stage doing a show, and he's like, you really should audition for this thing I'm doing here in Houston. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, we're doing cartoons, but we're doing them in English. And I'm like, you're dubbing? What are you dubbing? Like, he's like, it's this. And he showed me a keychain. And because I was familiar with my brother and his anime, I was like, that's anime. They do that in Houston? Like, I thought all of this stuff was done out in LA.
Yeah.
There's a company here that does it. And so it happened to be a company in town that he gave me the number to, and I went and auditioned and just became the way of the world. So now I go back and do classes with high schoolers and stuff, where I teach them about voice acting and tell them, like, there's this whole other world you don't know about. And I've even done some stuff with like my agency and whatnot, trying to help folks understand, like, hey, you might be a commercial voice actor, but the fun is over here where you don't have to sell the stuff. You just get to be the characters and do all the fun stuff and save the world. So I kind of try to give back in that way. But
you have an agency. That's awesome.
Yes. Well, I don't have an agency, just people that are at the same agency.
Oh, okay.
I'm not that put together. I can barely handle my schedule. I don't think I can handle a bunch of other actors' schedules.
That's a good point. You've been in the industry for many years. How has it changed since you first got started?
Oh my goodness. David and I were just talking about this the other day. He's like, what's the main thing that's changed? And I'm like, tape. When we first started, we recorded everything to tape. So what that Yeah. So what that meant is you didn't get to watch anything ahead of time. Your script was a piece of paper that you're seeing for the first time before you do it. And you would literally just guess at what, if you were fitting the flaps or whatever. And then if you messed up, which, you know, usually you would, they'd have to like, let's try again. And then you would do it again. So everything took a lot longer. So now that we are, you know, all digital, it's so much quicker. And now, especially with the simul dubs, that was another huge change. Yeah, because before it was like you would have, let's say you're the lead in the show, you might have 24 hours total that you have to do for 12 episodes, hypothetically. Back in the day, they'd say, okay, well, you have these 24 hours, but, you know, we've got like 3 months before the show is due. So just pick 24 hours and little bits between these 3 months. Whereas now we're doing episode by episode.
I know.
So then the number of hours is smaller, but it's weekly. And it's a lot harder because before you would do like big chunks. So it's like, oh, it's a character that you're really familiar with because you're doing 8 hours at a time. Now you're doing like an hour or 30 minutes at a time. So as an actor, I find it a little more challenging because you have to kind of get back into that zone again really quickly. But
my wife and I have talked because we've both been into anime for so long, and we were like, the fact that we can watch the episode so quickly after it airs. Like I'm from the generation of waiting, like, how many years was it until the next episode of Dragon Ball Z? Like 5 or 6 or something. And like Saturday, we wake up, we go downstairs, and we're like, well, it's there. We can watch it now.
It's so surreal to us too, because I remember, like, you know, you mentioned Cell Saga earlier. And Cell Saga took us like over a year to record.
I imagine,
even longer for it to come out. So it used to be that you would acquire a show and then just sit there for 2 years almost while you would wait for it to come out.
Yeah.
Now it's like 2 days. So a lot of times people will be like, oh, are you in the show? And I'm too afraid to say anything because I'm like, is it out yet? Like, I'm not even sure. I don't want to get in trouble. So I just wait until somebody else announces it. Like, I'm watching
me too.
Funimation's Twitter. I'm like, oh, I can talk about it now.
That's fantastic. Because it used to take so long. And we thought for sure when everything happened with like the shutdowns and the way of the world, we we're like, oh, this is going to be gone for a while. And I swear it was like a month. And then everybody was like, all right, we're back on it. Because I'm still watching anime weekly. How?
Briana, that was the scariest time ever when everything started to kind of move. And we were like, okay, well, it was a nice run. Love you.
We said the same thing.
But now to see how it's kind of come back like a phoenix from the flames, like, it's more popular than ever. It's kind of overwhelming.
I watch so much anime and I'm like, it's for work, honest. But there's just like, there's so much now. And it's like, things are starting to end. And then they're like, but my hero's at the end of the month. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's going to start again.
I know. That's the one thing that's really great too, is that it seems like because there is so much coming out so much faster, they have more of an impetus, it seems, to do these longer running shows and to bring them out faster. Because they know that you guys are like waiting for it, which is exciting for us because it kind of sucks. Back in the day, you'd do a show and then you'd wait like 2-3 years before the second season came out. You're like, come on. Now it's happening much faster. So that's
awesome. Let me touch my phone real quick.
Sure.
You've also done some script work. Does your voice acting help with writing the scripts and doing that side of things?
100%. I've had some really amazing writers come to me and say, I want to be a script adapter for anime. I'm like, I don't know if you do. You say that. It's very, very tricky. I try to tell people it's like a puzzle. So basically, when we're script adapting, what we do is we take the translation, which a lot of times is basically just, this is what's being said. So like all of the characterization and everything kind of comes out. Then we take that script and look at the video and we have to match those mouth flaps, but also put some of that characterization back in. So it sounds like, you know, two human beings talking to each other and not just talking at each other the entire time. And so it definitely does help as a voice actress, and also to have a musical background of some sort, whether it's singing or playing an instrument, because there is definitely a rhythm to it. You have to be able to understand really weird little things that we learn, like it's totally okay if you end on an M sound for it to go over the flaps a little bit. Knowing that 2 dots means a tiny pause, whereas 3 dots means a longer pause. We have all of these little tips and tricks that we try to use. But overall, I would say that being a voice actor definitely helps with timing, understanding a scene and how it should flow between 2 people. The only thing I ever get in trouble with is I speak very quickly. So I have a tendency to overwrite sometimes, but it's always better to overwrite than underwrite. Really take words out.
Whisper tips from Monica Rial.
Exactly. Always better to overwrite than underwrite.
Since we are celebrating Women's History Month, who are some women who inspire you? They can be real or fictional.
There's so many.
I know.
My goodness. I saw this question and I was like, oh my goodness, how do I narrow it down? I can say career-wise, the women that inspired me very early on in my career were women comedians like Lily Tomlin, Carol Burnett, Bernadette Peters, like people that were funny and vivacious and were women that weren't afraid to kind of push the limits a little bit, but still be funny.
Yeah.
I loved those ladies. And right now, like I posted very early on, I think regardless of what your politics are, it's a huge deal that we finally have a vice president that is not, oh my God, she's a woman. She's a woman of color.
Woman of color, yeah.
Oh my goodness. You know, I feel like we can all just kind of breathe a little bit.
There's certain things where it's like you think you'll see it in your lifetime, but in the back of your head, you're like, no, I won't. But then you do.
Yeah. And it's always like just a, yay, go ladies. But there's so many. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention my mother, because my mother is one of the strongest, most amazing ladies I've ever met. And I would not be the strong woman I am today if it weren't for her. So
thank you, Mama.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mama Rial. One of the things that I like to stress as a marginalized voice in this space is to celebrate yourself. How does Monica celebrate Monica?
Oh my goodness. Right now in the pandemic, Monica celebrating Monica is taking the day off.
I heard that. Like
sometimes it's just disconnecting from everything. I've got a hammock in my backyard and I will sit out there with my kitty cat and just chill and forget the world. In fact, he's sitting over there in the sun waiting for me because he's hoping we'll go out.
He's like, get off the phone. Come on, let's go.
Yeah, he's like, what are you doing? Sitting in this little tiny patch of sun because I know I want to go outside. He's being quiet though, so I shouldn't poke him too much. But yeah, that I'm very big into self-care. I think the pandemic as a whole has just made everybody a little on edge. Yeah. We're all just like, I was waking up with anxiety and I'm like, why am I so anxious? And my fiance would have to remind me, like, it's a global pandemic. Like there's stuff going on, whether you feel it every day or not. So I just try to make sure that I'm taking good care of myself and, you know, working out and eating well and taking time for myself, not overbooking myself.
That part is very, because we all panicked. And so we were like, work all the time.
Exactly. Work all the time. And from home. So you don't even have your like, your safe space anymore. It's like, oh no, this is where I work and I live. And
many days of why am I tired? Why am I crying? Why am I like on edge? And it's like, because you haven't done a damn thing for yourself. And
exactly.
Lord knows how long. So I was like,
I will say, I do have my first real haircut scheduled next week. And I'm very excited. But excited because I'm like, I've been doing this on my own, which is fine, but I'm really excited to have somebody else touch it.
That's legit. Just all of that, like, and we didn't realize how stressed we were because we were we were in panic mode immediately. So any moment of stress, we were like, tuck it aside, put it away. Yeah. And then you hit the breakdown and you're like, why am I breaking down?
And you know what's, it's so funny because I think not funny, it's awful, but we've all had that situation. Like you're compartmentalizing, everything's fine. It's that meme with the dog and everything's
with
on
the fire. Yes.
Fine. It's fine.
With the coffee cup.
Yes. one day something happens. It might be minuscule, it might be huge, but that's just all it takes for all of those emotions to come out. So self-care is very important right now.
I agree. Speaking of self-care, kind of, because I'm nosy and I want to know. What anime are you watching right now?
Oh my goodness. I have a long list. So what I've been doing is I've been going back and watching the shows, because a lot of time when we're working on simuldubs, you don't really have the time to catch up on the show because you're so busy recording the shows.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Sometimes I will watch as I'm going along just to see how it's turning out. But now is my catch up time, because I've had a lot of people go, have you seen this show? Have you seen that show? And I'm like, no, because I was so busy doing the thing. But now I'm going back and watching shows like Black Butler in its entirety.
Yes.
Watching, I finally watched Uzuki-chan in its fullness, or it's full. I can't even speak right now. Oh, Kitty, hi. In its entirety.
I saw a tail. Yes. Wow. My cats have been good, so
he doesn't care. He's like,
I'm gonna brag a little bit because my cats have been in place sleeping. So
yours are well behaved. This one is not very. He knows he runs the house, so he's ornery. But yeah, it's a lot of anime that I've worked on that I haven't gotten to see what everybody else did. So I'm going through and watching. Next up, I think, is Golden Kamuy.
I need to watch
still
that
working
too.
on it.
Yeah.
So much fun. It starts out very dramatic, but it has these moments of comedy. And so it's this really well blended show. It's got a little bit of everything for everybody.
I don't need to add anything else, but I'm going to quietly add that to the list.
Yes,
so
it's
much
a good
one.
It's a good, I know, that's my thing, is my list was growing so long. I'm like, I should probably, and then there's other shows I want to watch too, like Demon Slayer. Everybody's talking about Demon Slayer. I want to watch it. I want to see what it's all about.
It's good. A bunch of
stuff. That's what I've heard. It's definitely on my list. I just haven't gotten there yet.
So since we are somehow running close to time, I'm going to go to the last question. I'm not sure if you realize it. You probably do, because I gushed at the beginning. But you are definitely inspiring other women who love this industry. What advice do you have for future voice actresses and female creatives looking to break into the industry?
My biggest advice that I can give anyone is be true to yourself. Be you. Be true to yourself. Be who you are. Don't try to be somebody else. I'm Monica. Like, whether you meet me in an interview or whether you meet me on the street, like, this is just who I am. Right. I don't put on any airs or anything like that. And I think that that's the best way to go about it, because acting is all about being truthful and being honest and giving your honest interpretation of that character's life choices and journey, basically.
I love that.
Thank you. If you're not honest with yourself, it's like, it's just such a big thing. And I think most women, especially my generation and the older generations, we've been taught to kind of, hey, worry about what other people think. You shouldn't walk outside like this. Don't wear white after Labor Day. Don't do this. Don't do that.
Oh my God. I'm at the edge of that generation because I'm late 30s.
Yeah. So you got a little
yeah, a little bit.
It's not fun. And I constantly am reminding my mom, like, she'll say, you're not supposed to wear white after Labor Day. And I'm like, I don't care. I love you, but I don't care. So I think that's the biggest thing too, because there are trials and tribulations that you'll face, but as long as you're true to yourself, then none of that stuff is going to affect you at all.
I love that advice, to just be true to yourself. And it's true. And it's amazing when you see other people doing it and it works and you're like, oh, okay. Just be me.
Yeah. And it's so hard because we get so tied up, especially now in the age of social media. There's this thought of, well, maybe I'm not enough. I need to be bigger. I need to be glamorous. I need to be like the influencers and all that. You don't. You can be a perfectly happy individual without striving to be something else. So gratitude is another big thing. Be grateful for what you have, and then it'll be all that much more special to you.
I love that.